going. Anyway, okay. I just love these expressions when you're talking about the Vic and all of this old school gangster type talk. And so I'm
Yeah.
curious because all of your cast isn't like 60-year-old Italians.
Yeah.
Was that important, and how did you research the dialect and things like that when preparing the film?
Okay. Yeah, it was super important, and I dove deep into the bowels of the internet, try to find everything that I could as far as how they spoke back then. I wanted to just be authentic,
Oh,
so
sure, sure,
yeah, it was super
absolutely.
fun doing that.
Oh, it was. I imagine so, and it brings a flavor, I think, to the film, meaning that you're not just four or five guys sitting around a pool table or a card table at nighttime and such. It does. It brings some authenticity to it, originality to it, of course, and it's what you'd expect people to be saying, obviously. Um,
Yeah. So the first draft that I had, the feedback was I don't understand it. It was so thick with um, the dialect,
oh
and
my
people were like
gosh.
I don't know what they're saying, and I was like, so I had to tone it back a little bit, which sucked because I was like, this is so awesome. It sounded almost like poetry, which
Oh
was
my
really
gosh.
cool. But
Really? Oh my
yeah.
goodness. Nothing wrong with that, though. I have to tell you that bringing that sort of thing, like I said, it just breeds originality, which is awesome. When you're sitting around that table, is the audience ever supposed to get a hint as to what the eventual, without giving it away? We all know how the film ends, obviously, to what we just watched. But I feel like you were very protective with your secrets. You know what I mean? Meaning who the rat
Yes.
is, etc. And that was done intentionally, I presume, because I noticed that you don't just do that by not speaking it, but I just think I caught some actual acting there, meaning actors that are intentionally withholding the meaning. And I don't know if that was intentional. Did you coach your actors to make sure to not give any form of a hint in gesture, look, or otherwise?
Actually, there is there's a moment where they do look like across the table at somebody. There's like one brief moment, and
Hmm.
yes, I did want it guarded. I didn't want it to be like
Sure.
so obvious. Um, but yeah, there's like a little, the composer added a little audio cue, and then you kind of look over at the hand, and he kind of looks at Benson like, oh shit. So, but it's so fast. I think it's maybe like 1.5 seconds on screen.
Sure.
So,
Hello? Hello? I'm on right now.
hello,
Hi,
Hello?
Trevor.
Oh,
Trevor.
hi. How's it going?
It's
How's
good.
it
It's so
going?
nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. We literally just started asking some questions about the film. We're really actually right now talking about the actors. I was asking Brian, I said, were you coaching any of your actors in terms of, I think you're really good at keeping the secret, meaning nobody gives anything away, verbally, gestures, acting, etc. So I was curious to just
Uh-huh.
ask him, how well did he say to you, hey, guard this with your life, meaning no looking, no nudging, no whatever. How careful was he to instruct you guys in terms of how to behave to keep the underlying point a secret?
With the script itself, or in the perform
Oh,
in
actually,
our
you could talk to
performances?
both, really. Yeah, both sides of the fence, meaning that scene with the pool table, or why do I keep saying pool table when you guys are at the card table? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
there's that, and then with the overall script, of course.
I think in general, one thing that Brian is very good at is he's very good at being really artistically subtle with the way he's describing his script. So
Sure.
I kind of had to kind of put things together, and then breaking down the script for myself. It was like just understanding that these characters are just a part of this crew that have to that work with that work kind of like in mysterious ways. So it was kind of just I knew that there was this aspect of having to be mysterious, but at the same time be very uh uncertain at the table of like what is going on.
Sure. Oh, sure.
Um, so yeah, no, Brian. I think Brian's very thorough when it comes to that stuff. When it
Thank
when
you.
it comes down when when it comes down to kind of like describing mysteriousness,
Hmm.
I think as like paradox as that sounds, it's very true that I think that in general it's like we didn't really know what was going on, and then once you're like in the flow of things, it naturally flows together. Especially working with like Ryan and and the other actors, gosh, Alexis and
And Scott.
and Scott. Yeah,
Yep.
Scott's
Yeah,
great.
You
So,
betcha.
Brian, are you on video right now? I can't see. I'm just seeing a picture.
I am. You're seeing a picture?
Really?
Yeah, maybe it's not movie. It's not movie. I don't know. I'm using my phone. My laptop wasn't picking up the connection strong enough.
Really?
So I was just like, oh,
Did you
okay.
hear that, Michael?
But
Huh.
Okay.
Well, you're
No,
here
super
now.
good.
That's the important thing. So I'm like,
wait. There we go. Okay, there we go.
he's
Now.
got you.
Yeah.
There we
Yeah.
go.
This is awesome. So now I have to ask, and this is a question to both of you, of course. Clearly, it goes without saying that they all look like a bunch of dapper dons. I mean, clearly the attire, along with the lingo, etc. So I'm curious to ask. I mean, it looks like most of these boys would have had all their wardrobes sitting at home already, or was it a real challenge? You know, because some people will try to get really vintage stuff as far as with your costumes, etc. So how'd that all go?
Oh, so I went heavy thrifting. So everything in there.
Yeah.
So there's actually like I think Trevor had it, like a super old like a camel lighter.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
everything we got was like vintage. There's a store in Sacramento, and they deal with just like vintage furniture. So the table was vintage in the beginning
Sure.
of the film. The phone that's sitting on the desk, just everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, the clothes, it was tough.
Yeah. So I had brought a couple of shirts. I mean, I have to go to auditions, and then I always carry like costumes in my closet. So I just bring a bunch
Oh
of stuff.
wow.
But Brian already had stuff in his closet. So it's like, or Brian already had stuff there. I'm sorry. And so I just brought a handful of like little props or whatnot that I feel like would be good, because I get kind of like, I get really, sometimes if I'm like, it helps me with the performance if I'm able to grab onto things or whatever it is, you know. I'm very like ADHD when it comes to that.
Ah, okay.
But I think it just helps me in general when I can kind of like interact with what I'm playing. And there was one point when we were shooting that I had to be like, I was like, can I light the cigarette? And we busted through like 2 cartons of herbal cigarettes.
Oh my God.
Just because I liked it so much. And I don't smoke cigarettes as it is.
Sure.
So I was like unfamiliar with it. So I kind of really had a lot of fun doing that,
Sure.
you know. But I was like, man, these are great. You know, I'm going to use them for my other, you know, student films or whatever, you know, I'm a part of. You know,
Sure.
our herbal cigarettes are great. But yeah, no, I think the big thing was for myself is just like getting sizing down right. And, you know, that's always like being super attentive when it comes to that. So
Absolutely. So, yeah. Now I have to.
I think that.
Oh, go ahead,
So
Brian.
the funny thing about the herbal cigarettes is that there were moments where we caught that they were still lighting cigarettes and still smoking between takes, like kind of in character, which was super funny. But yeah, I think it added to the texture. Like I wanted to have like lighters and matches and ashtray and just chips and, you know, free to just play with whatever you want on the table. It just adds to it, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I wanted to ask a question to piggyback that, actually, because I know our co-founder, Michael, typically he's very, very specific about if he goes for a particular role, the mustache has to be regulation, or, you know, he really tweaks himself. So did you do that not just with the clothing, but I see that you have hats. I see that you have fixtures on there. How nitpicky, because you're an engineer by trade, so my guess is that everything for you is 158% detail. Like it literally has to be everything spot on. So did that include all the accessories and everything?
Yes. So I tried to put the wardrobe together per character.
Okay.
So even with like Benson, you know, they have the tie clips, and you know he has some other, you know, like he has a pocket watch. You don't really see, but it's all there. Like I wanted it to be authentic. If you felt like pulling the pocket watch out at some point, you know, like that would have been awesome. Like I would rather have it there than not, right?
Absolutely. Oh, certainly. We started to talk yesterday, of course, about your lead older actor, who I absolutely adore. Oh my gosh, I just adore him so much. So we want to go through and talk about him again. You want to tell everybody a bit about his background again, and then the piggyback question to that is this: did you ever consider him to actually being? Oh, I can't say that without giving it away. Let's just say, did you ever consider him for another role in the film? Because I could have seen that easily.
So Benson or Scott Noble, the main
Scott
or the
Noble.
boss?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
No, he was always just going to be
Okay.
Benson.
Okay.
Yeah. and the reason he's a little older, and I wanted to have kind of Benson be older, and all of his posse kind of younger or varying in age, but he's kind of like he's the patriarch of
Ah,
this group. He's seasoned, and the idea is that it's set during the onset of Prohibition, right? So
hmm,
he's this well-established gang, but things are changing for him. He's got these young members, and he doesn't really know what's going on, right? We all know that
sure.
that period was like crazy, so he's just trying to figure things out as he goes, like losing grip, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, sure, sure, absolutely. Well, and the thing that I noticed too with him is he looks like a one and done sort of actor. You know what I mean? You bring him in, you put him on set, it's a one and done, shot, done, set, on to the next thing. Was that process much simpler with someone? Because oftentimes I've heard directors say when you are working with people that are more of a veteran or a little more mature, it doesn't take much for them to get on set, get into that mode, or slip right into character and then slip right back out.
Uh, I think there were like various moments. I think he's a talker, he's a storyteller. So
Mm,
a lot of times, he just starts
Yeah.
telling these stories like between cuts, and I'm like, all right,
sure.
come on back, come on back. But yeah, it kind of worked. Um, we had some kind of shots like MOS shots where just kind of tracking. Never made it into the film, but he was telling stories. Everybody was kind of chatting around and
Sure.
just kind of panning, and it really worked. But yeah, when he got into the character, he was there. He was in it,
Gotcha.
and tried to nail it, which was really cool. Actually, everybody did such a phenomenal job. Oh.
Oh, look at that.
I think Scott, like, for myself, throughout when we were shooting that, he like, I mean, yeah, he has all these stories in it, and he would just be so specific about his stories that I could not help but, like, you know listen to him. And then when it was time to roll again, I was just like, oh my god, all right, like, because they would be funny, serious, just took me through like an emotional roller coaster. And now it's like, okay, now we're gonna film this, and it's not, it's, the scene isn't as intense, you know what I mean, but I would be amped up, and then I'd have to calm myself down, you know what I mean, to kind of like hit those like little beats that I wanted to. So
Sure. Oh, sure.
uh yeah, it was, but no, Scott's great. He's a great performer. I saw him in another film where he played uh sort of this like this really like over the top French, what was that, Brian, that one short film we saw him in? But
Afternoon Delight.
Afternoon Delight, and he
Yeah,
played this like totally opposite guy, and was
yeah,
so
he did.
weird. It was so great to see him opposite of what he had played, you know what I mean? So it
Sure.
was this really really like juxtaposed thing of him being like this really sassy French kind of androgynous man, and
Yeah.
then kind of like super hard masculine crime boss, you know what I mean, in the fall. So yeah, no, he's great. He's a great
Yeah,
guy. I would love to work with him again if we
that's
can, if
very
we
cool.
ever pass, ever cross.
Actually, I have a Trevor question here because this film, and again, it could be a presumption on my part, but it almost looks as though this would be an awesome film for an actor to try to do improvisational, meaning, bringing things to the table or saying, hey, Brian, I want to change the dialogue, etc. Was he
Hmm.
willing to, or did he do so at any point in time during this filming?
Yeah, I mean, Brian, he's already like leaking. Did I? Um, yeah, no, I mean, I love to improv first and foremost because it's just so much fun. It helps so much getting into the flow of things.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there was some leeway. I think if I were to look at the script, and I think I would have changed like a couple words, But the
Mhm.
thing is, with it being a short film that we had to fill the dialogue. I know, not for myself, but I know Ryan added the line. I think the Probies busted up the joint. I
Yep.
know that was added. And for myself, I don't think I added any lines, but I definitely had the freedom to.
Sure.
Um, and sometimes I think there was actually a couple lines that I didn't say because I didn't feel like they worked.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
so with that respect, no, I didn't improv any lines, but I don't think I said some lines, and then I actually, like, instead of like, having to over explain, I would just let it, get in the flow of things. So
Sure, you betcha. Now, your chemistry with the other actors, had you known them before, or were you all friends, or what was the connection there? And what was it like working with those fellow actors?
well, no, so I had never met anybody, and that's usually how it goes with like, indie
Sure.
projects that are shorts that you just meet them the day of, and you have to kind of like form this imaginary relationship with them. But no, from there, we just get to talking and being young actors that are trying to make their way up, or whatever route they're going with it. That it's always really positive. It's really proactive attitude. And Ryan, I know Ryan, I had been talking with Ryan, and he had just graduated from UC Davis in the theater department. Myself, I'm a film student at Sacramento State, but I've been acting outside of school, and I had already met a handful of actors. And then Alexis had just started acting, and he's a creative as well, where he's a musician and he's a fashion designer, so I just like naturally just was like a sponge talking to everybody. And
Nice.
it was great working with them. I love the pool of actors that we have here in Northern California. And so yeah, no, I mean, I hadn't worked with them prior, but from that, we actually, on my student film my senior thesis film I made, I casted Alexis as one of like the party goer guys, just because I knew him,
Sure.
And so yeah, no, I hadn't worked with them, but it was just like one of those things where we already knew. Everybody was pretty professional. It didn't get out of hand or anything like that. It was, it was great. So
nice.
So, yeah.
Very nice. Brian, question for you. I should say this is a twofold question, because personally, I think most people that will watch this have not made a film or had the luxury to do so. So do you think that it is more helpful for, again, engineers are typically very detail-oriented individuals who really have, a very keen eye on every single particle, basically, of a production. So did you find that your job was more helpful in terms of making film? And moreover, I'm curious to ask, maybe it's just me again interpreting, but have you considered doing another short, like a piggyback to this one? Because I could easily see this story continuing.
So my audio cut out a bit, so I missed the first part of that question.
Oh, sorry. Okay, well, we'll start with the latter two, which is, maybe it's me, but at the end of the fall, I said to myself, I could see this being another movie, meaning that you could create another one, almost a piggyback from this.
Yeah. So when I wrote it, actually, there was a whole chunk before where we actually jump into the fall that that exists, and there's a chunk after that exists, like the whole story in my head. So it would be cool to explore more. So yeah, I could do it. I kind of want to, I'm moving on to a couple other projects, but
I hear you. That's not a bad idea.
If there's a lull, or like inspiration strikes, I wouldn't be opposed.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, the first part of the question was, because I know what your day job is. So if people are watching this or will be watching it that are potential filmmakers, how important do you think it is? We all have day jobs for the most part, but how important is it? Like, for instance, you're an engineer. So typically some of your qualities, the attention to detail, the focusing on every particle of the process. Did you find that was ultimately exorbitantly helpful to you, meaning what you do during the day and implementing that to the creative side?
Yes. Oh, yes and no, I think.
Okay.
It helped because, I would ask certain questions, like, like, why are we using this lens, or why are we putting light here? What is the background to foreground light ratio? What is that telling us? Like, what kind of mood is that? If I'm framing it this way. So I ask a lot of questions, and I'm like kind of very analytical.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's slightly crippling. Like there's so much, and like, I'm trying to just gobble it all up, but there's just no room.
Oh, I imagine. Oh, I definitely. And when you completed the pre-production, when did that start? And then when did you finish with the entire project?
So, oh my gosh. The whole thing was about a month and a half.
Okay, right.
A couple months ago.
Oh, okay.
Kind of a blur. Yeah.
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 Okay.
So
and today would be your how many screenings?
First screening.
I know. I'm so
Yeah,
excited. I
so
can't wait till the end to surprise you. It is his first screening. Yay! Is that like scary, frightening for you though? Because it's like you don't even know how many people are watching it, what their interpretation is, that sort of stuff. I mean, are you excited or do you feel more nervous about, the
um,
expectation, meaning yourself, like what you expect?
I've actually compartmentalized what I feel about the film and what everybody else does, and my interpretation and everybody else's. Um, and the most beautiful thing that I've experienced is with this film or anything that I've ever worked on, how people interpret, certain things. It's completely different, and it's like from left field. But I'm like, wait, what? But it's so cool that people can do that. They can, take in this work and feel a certain way about it that you never anticipated.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Well, Trevor, since you're in the film, I think it would be interesting to just flat out ask you because you're part of the film. So you may even
Uh-huh.
have, even though you act in it, what is your interpretation of this film?
Wow. I think, the film is kind of, centered around this like kind of like coming of age, I think, with a man who's kind of, losing power.
Hmm.
So, with that said, it's like I think the vision is there because we did shoot. Actually, that was one thing that we left out of the script. We shot a couple things before where me and the rest of the boys are talking about girls,
Hmm.
um, and so there's already that aspect of like there's background, there's story, and then there's story past what you see on the screen. So um in regards to like the film itself, it's kind of like to me it just feels like a little fragment of this world, so it can continue and it will, maybe down the line, you never know,
Yes.
but yeah, no, it's definitely, it definitely feels good to be a part of a different era. I mean, I love period pieces, that take place at different points in time,
Sure.
and so that's always a lot of fun. And I think my biggest, like, I think Brian and myself were our own worst critics, but
Ah,
we'll just be like, oh, that little thing there, oh, that little thing there, I wish I would have been more sharp here, I wish I would have, you know delayed myself just a tad bit, you know what I mean? But
sure.
that's one of those things where I may overthink it entirely, and then the audience may gravitate towards that because they see themselves more so in that way. And that's with anything. I mean, that's storyline, that's character, that's whatever it is, as long as there's some sort of um truthfulness in the imagination of it, then it can speak for like the littlest person.
I
So yeah,
getcha.
no, it's
I
great.
do. I gotcha. Well, okay, so I'll just ask anybody because everybody's unmuted. Does anybody have a question for Brian or for Trevor, or am I my lone wolf here? Anybody at all, including you, Michael? Feel free to chime in if you wish, because I know you talked to him last night. Anyone? Going once.
Yeah, I got something.
Go ahead.
You said you were a software developer.
Yes. Yeah.
What? How come you switched over?
Actually, it didn't switch over. I wouldn't be opposed to switching over, but this is I have a lot of hobbies, and this is like so many. Uh, this is something I gravitated to. I started doing this, and I just kind of just falling down this rabbit hole. Uh, if I could make the switch, I probably would. Not yet.
Your setup, your editing setup looks pretty heavy. That's a pretty dedicated hobby you got there.
Yeah, well, so gaming and yeah, photography, so color grading, and yeah, man, I love editing actually. It's
Huh. Are you on
awesome.
Resolve?
So I do have Resolve. I have uh, I need to actually use it, but I've been using Premiere. But I think the workflow is probably the same for the
Okay.
most part. Yeah.
hmm
How about you?
I was on Premiere, then I switched to Resolve, and to be honest, it's like a game changer. I think
Oh, okay.
its coloring is pretty intuitive, and honestly, its exporting and deliveries are way more time efficient. And I don't know if it's the compression or what, but it's smoother.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to check it out. I have it downloaded, so I might do that today.
Yeah, give it a shot. Give it a shot.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Anybody else? Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, the last question I have before I give you your good news is to both of you, both to Trevor and to Brian. Please tell everybody what you have coming up in the future in terms of projects, etc., and how people can find you on social media and otherwise. Brian?
Oh, okay. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Just search Brian McKenzie. For the fall, it's thefallshort.com. As far as next projects, so I have 2 scripts out there. And actually, I'm slowly working on a script that I'm kind of writing for Trevor, and it's called The Trench. And this is down the road, but it is set in 1918. It's going to be epic. And then, editing 2 other short films. I'm trying to stay busy.
Trevor?
Yeah, well, so Brian is writing The Trench, and I think nowadays, with the whole, virus shutting the world down, it's been a really good creative time for myself. So I'm graduating from college. Hooray. I'm graduating from the film production department at Sac State, but in the future I've been focusing on acting. That's what I'm passionate about. But I have a couple projects kind of on the back burner right now because of this, but just been doing a lot of script writing. I've built my demo reel up. So yeah, I think my plan is I'm in Sacramento now, and then I'm moving to Los Angeles in June. But I'm going to be coming back and forth because hopefully because of work. So I have The Trench plan with Brian, and then a couple other short films. My student thesis senior film should be coming out in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
Just because we got put it back on the back burner, and my social, if you guys want to check it out, my Instagram is, you could just type in Trevor Hooper, but my handle is Trevor.Benjamin. That's on Instagram, and I usually keep up with most of my work on there.
Gotcha.
And then I don't have a Vimeo. I just set up my Vimeo because I wanted to put my senior film on there. But I think the main thing for myself is really just focusing on theater right now too.
Nice.
That's really what I love. I love all aspects of film, and I study film heavily. So my plan is I'm going to be hopefully joining the theater company down in LA at the Groundlings Theater. And then just kind of doing what I'm doing now, just shooting a handful of commercials and stuff like that. Just kind of I'm always doing something, or I'm always thinking something, whether it's writing or whatnot. So I think that's most important for myself, especially. I think for anybody really that wants to work in this, or do it as a hobby or whatever you want to call it. Whether it's therapy or not, it's just doing something that is creative. And in this respect, it's film. So
yeah.
So yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome.